What's going on, guys? This is Mr. Teej 66's Movie Reviews. I am Mr. Teej. Today I'll be taking a look at a movie from a couple years ago, 2015's Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man is, of course, a Marvel comic book character, and he's arguably one of the more lesser-known ones. I mean, someone even say he's B-level. I mean, some people even say he's C-level. I mean, he does have a prominent, role in the Marvel Universe. I haven't read too many Ant-Man comics. Spider-Man was the only really comic book or Marvel comic I read on a regular basis, but certainly I've heard of him. And, this is the kind of character that we're like, there's not much potential for a film here. What are they going to do? I mean, it's a guy who can shrink down, and control ants. I mean, that's kind of silly, but the movie turns out to be pretty damn good. I mean, some flaws, but I'll get to those. Paul Rudd is absolutely perfectly cast in this movie. It's basically the same persona he always has. Kind of that, not smarmy, kind of, flippant, kind of arrogant prick that he always plays. Although he's not nearly as unlikable as, say, Tony Stark on that level. What I really like about his character is he's like Spider-Man. He's basically just a regular schlub. He's not a scientist like Tony Stark or super rich. He's not a god like Thor, or even like a super soldier like Captain America. He's just a regular guy who gets thrown into this extreme situation, and he has to deal with it. Michael Douglas, great as Hank Pym. And really too bad that you can't really see him, he can't play the character, when he was in his prime, but, he's too old, but he does a great job. There's one great sequence at the beginning of the film where they de-age Michael Douglas, make him look like 30 years younger. It is getting creepy. You cannot tell that it's CGI. I mean, it is absolutely seamless, and I'm looking really, really carefully, and there's no dead giveaway or anything like that. Corey Strobe, I can't remember the actor's name who plays the villain of the film. I thought he was actually pretty good. He's gotten a lot of bad reviews, saying his character is dull, but I thought he was great. I thought he had a really clear motivation, revenge against his former mentor, and I see a lot of hurt in his eyes. Like he almost wishes it wasn't this way, but it is. The weak link in the movie for me is who the heck is it? Evangeline Lilly as the love interest. She's okay. She's not really anything that special. I just found her acting was fine, but it was just kind of meh, just the girl and nothing else. The action sequences are where this movie shines. I mean, there are sequences in this movie that, like, you'd think it'd be a silly concept for, shrinking down to the size of an ant, but man, the action sequences are well edited. They're very fluid. I like the fact that he uses a lot of long takes. There isn't a lot of choppy cutting. Sequences just play out, and it's a nice inversion from the typical, blow up the world at the end of the film kind of things Marvel always does. It's small scale and it's large scale at the same time. The detail is amazing. Like, water drops, looks photorealistic when he goes in between cracks in, like, the floor. You see dust particles when he goes through a carpet. It's amazing the level of detail they put into it. It is just fantastic, and it never gets boring. It never gets old. Watching him shrink down. Just a freaking blast. The humor in the movie is very well used. A few jokes don't land here and there, but for the most part, the movie knows it's a very stupid, silly premise, and it absolutely goes with it. The dramatic stuff is actually pretty good. There's a nice relationship between Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, and his daughter, Evangeline Lilly. I forgot her character's name off the top of my head. Hope, I believe, is her name. But that also leads into one of my biggest flaws of the film, is that subplot between, the two of them, where there's some resentment, because he won't let her use the suit, but she knows how to use it, but he won't let her. It's a nice subplot, but it's dealt with too quickly. Like, the movie's, like, only about halfway done, and that subplot is resolved, and I just felt that was too fast. Like, you could probably have put that near the end of the film. I think it would have been much more powerful. It just feels like they checked off a box. Like, okay, that subplot is checked off. Now we can get to the big action. The only other big problem I have with the movie is that there's a training sequence where Paul Rudd has to, of course, learn how to use the suit. It's a typical sequence in all superhero films. The superhero has to master his powers. And I just think the movie spends way too long there. It could have been cut down. It could have been shortened up, because I felt like the movie starts to drag a little bit toward the end, or toward the middle, when that training sequence happens. So definitely could have cut that sequence out. And that's really my only two big flaws of the film: Evangeline Lilly's performance and that that sequence in the middle, or that training sequence. The ants are very well utilized too. I was really surprised. Like you'd think, okay, ants, what are they gonna do? And they do a whole lot to help him out. I don't know if it's the technology is really that believable where you could control ants with your mind, but I go with it. And you know what? If I was in a pickle, some ants could probably help the movie help me quite a bit. So yeah, this movie is a blast. It has a nice sense of humor, some fantastic action sequences. That's probably my high point of the movie was the action sequences. They never got old, very fluid. I would give this movie probably an 8.5. I thought it was an absolute blast. Maybe not Marvel's best film, but damn better than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, that's my review of Ant-Man. This is Mr. T66, and I will see you next time.